lot of people, the idea of working with a financial advisor can feel a bit intimidating. Do I really need advice? Am I bad with money? Am I going to be judged? What exactly happens once you say yes? Well, today's episode is about demystifying that process. We're lifting the curtain on what the first 100 days of working with a financial advisor should look and feel like. We're walking step by step through the first 3 months of advice. What happens, why it matters, and how it can transform not just your finances, but also your well-being. That's today on Money and a Good Life. Well, my name is Stephanie Coombs and I'm here with the actual money expert. It's not me, it's you, Ryan Watson. How are you going?
I'm good, Steph. You?
I'm fantastic, and I'm glad that we've got one of our returning
I know,
guests.
Pretty exciting. I feel like there should be a red alert going on. Return guest, return guest, return guest.
We like them so much they came back.
That's it.
Obviously,
or maybe they like us so much.
Or maybe, which one is
it?
Hey. Well, we're here obviously with one of Tribeca's superstar advisors, Rachael Holder. Welcome back, Rachel.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back.
Rach brings a rare mix of psychology training, behavioural finance expertise, and deep technical skill. We had this wonderful conversation with you last time about, the psychology of money, and I do recommend, if you haven't heard that one, that you go back and listen to it. But we're talking about something a little bit different this episode, which is what can you expect when you're talking to a financial advisor? Because people can be a little bit anxious the first time they step into a room, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those unknowns. So you don't quite know what to expect, what it's going to feel like, what the process will look like. So what we really want to do today is make that all a bit more tangible to people. So they really understand, if I make that phone call, if I start thinking about getting financial advice, what's that going to be like for me?
We do have to talk at some point or another about the fact that I went through a discovery session at Tribeca, and when I'm obviously saying that people are worried that they're going to feel judged, and have I left it too late? Have I got something that I'm embarrassed for someone to look at? That was all me.
Well, as we know, there's a lot of emotions attached to money, and we've discussed that a lot on this podcast. So, in inverted commas, bearing your financial soul with someone you've just learned and
it's
you're looking to build a trust.
It's super vulnerable.
It is super vulnerable.
And so I was so grateful for the opportunity. And for me, it was actually a very, very positive experience and quite a life-changing experience, I think, because, I feel like I've got more control over my money now.
Perfect. And I think the person you saw was Peter, if that's right?
Indeed.
And fabulous.
Yeah, he was
we
really
need
good.
We need to give him a shout out.
We do.
He'll love that.
He was great. And I've actually, I liked it so much, I've told my friends to go see him, which is that not an endorsement? It's like, I trust you enough to send my friends there.
At Tribeca, we love advocacy.
But obviously, one of the hard places to start is like, how do you know if you need a financial advisor?
It's a great question. There's a really common misconception that actually advice is only for the rich. Mm-hmm. Completely untrue. Could not be less true. It's really about anybody who's asking questions about their finances. So maybe you feel just a bit uncertain. A lot of people are just aware that they don't know what they don't know. So that's a really big thing. We have clients come to us a lot who they're actually doing okay. They're doing all right. But they're just aware that maybe there are things I'm not aware of. I could tweak things. I could be doing this a little bit better. Perhaps they're trying to make some big life decisions at the moment. So something's come up and they're thinking, what's the right decision to take here? Maybe they just think that they want a bit of ongoing support, some coaching. So if you're asking yourself any of those questions about your finances, then really it's beneficial to speak to an advisor.
For both of my friends who I've told need to speak to Tribeca, both of them have come into a bit of money.
Okay.
So they've inherited some money and they just don't know what to do. And those are and that's happening, I think, a lot with my peers.
We do work with a lot of people who go through significant life events, Steph, and we have talked about this before. So whether it's divorce, say redundancy or career transition, and also the inheritance piece as well. And Rach is one of our experts at Tribeca around intergenerational wealth as well. So helping families manage money, what's a living legacy, and things like that as well.
Inheritance is a really big one in terms of the emotional side of it, because I think often that money wasn't generated by you, it was generated by family, you care about it, and people really want to do the right thing. So that's why it's not unusual that that's a time when people come and speak to us. They feel that responsibility and just want to know that they're making the right decision.
And I sorry, Steph, and I'll clean this up as well, but in terms of what we've heard from clients in the past, they don't want to stuff it up.
Yeah.
There is a real real responsibility as well as the emotional attachment to the money, how someone's earned it and the like, they don't want to make a mistake. And the flight, fight, freeze, people often freeze when they receive it and don't do anything for an extended period.
Very much so. Well, in the case of a couple of my friends, this is the most money they will ever have. Like, this is it. They're in moderate, earning capacity, and they've got generational wealth from, not just their parents, but what their grandparents made, and that is it. That's it. They've got to, so they've got to make good calls on it.
And not to be forgotten, they're probably going through some stage of grief as well, depending where it is in the cycle and longevity, the time frame around that, going through that as well as this newfound financial responsibility.
But this is the thing, right? Like, if I wanted to, be in fit fighting form, right, to go do a marathon or something,
Are you planning on doing a marathon? Do we hear that first?
I promise you that is not what I'm saying. But if I was, I'd go talk to a trainer. Right? Like, it's funny how we accept trainers for things like running or going to the gym, but the idea that the thing that impacts your life arguably more than any other, outside influence, money, people don't seek a trainer for it.
I'm hearing it a lot at the moment. I don't know about you guys. It's the new year. There's a lot of new me, new year.
Yeah.
People really are thinking about things like their health and fitness and their goals. And I think about finances in a similar way. So you can have the best plan in the world if you think about your health. You can write down all the wonderful exercise things that you're going to do. You can go through your cupboards, get rid of all the junk food. I've literally been here. I know what this looks like.
Yes.
But unless you actually do the doing, you're not going to see any results. Your position is going to stay the same. You'll get there again next year and say, okay, off we go. Let's write down all the things I'm going to do. And having an advisor with you to look after your finances, it really is, like you're saying, like having a fitness coach. So we can keep you accountable. We can put that plan in place, but actually make sure that you get there.
Right, because I wouldn't call myself, I eat every day, but if I needed to change my diet, I'd go see a nutritionist because they'd be able to talk to me like an expert. It's funny how we accept experts in so many capacities in our life, except for money.
Yeah,
the thing that will actually have one of the most profound impacts on our life and our quality of life in the future.
Well, it's interesting. You both have given examples around a nutritionist and a personal trainer, and I think your everyday Australian probably understands a lot more about what they do as opposed to what a financial advisor can do and the value of, hence our conversation today, right?
Yeah, very much so. And I think a lot of this does come down to, as we said before, vulnerability. And people say, oh, I'm terrible with money. Are they often terrible? Like, how many people do you encounter who are terrible with money?
Very few.
Right.
It's rarely the thing. This all relates to things about our internal money scripts. I think we've spoken about this before, but it's really important to go back to. So these are stories that we tell ourselves. They're really formed very early in childhood, so around things that we see around our family, around our culture, and these beliefs that we have about ourselves really tend to stick with us into adulthood. So we can think something like that, I'm really bad with money. And then what that tends to do is it makes you avoid anything around money. You just keep making the same decisions. You don't make changes. It's really, really not the case. And the important thing to think here is that this pattern of behaviour doesn't have to continue on. You can make a change here. So the important things are a bit of self-awareness. So, okay, I have this thought, but maybe that's not the case. And then the support to make changes. And with that, you can then be empowered to move forward. Even in the very, very rare cases where people are actually quite bad with money, you can still make a change.
Yes, which is important. But again, like, sometimes you just need someone to say, like, all right, I can look at this objectively. I'm not wrapped up in the emotion of the moment. And that helps too.
Well, they can help. A financial expert can help interject in terms of that radio frequency around the story you are telling yourself to help you create a new script.
Yeah.
I had a client who said exactly this thing. So she came and sat with us and said, I am really, really terrible with money. I really don't know what to do here because I'm just not good with it. It's not my thing. And we explored it with her a little bit and actually found out that she grew up in a household where there wasn't a lot of security around money at all. Both of her parents were spenders. And there was quite a lot of financial insecurity. And she'd just taken this on. She'd just taken on the belief that this is how it was always going to be. So actually for her, even just exploring that and having that conversation and realising, this is where it comes from. I understand why I think and feel like this. That for her was really empowering. And she then realised that she got the power to change that.
And you can't necessarily see objectively what's going on in your own head.
No.
You need someone else to sometimes be like, oh, that's an interesting thought. Like, where did that come from? So all right, okay. What I want to do now is actually break down what it is like for step by step, like what happens in the first month. And we're kind of going into that a little bit, I think.
A look under the bonnet, if you will.
Yes, exactly. So there are no surprises. If you're actually wondering what it's going to be like, what you're going to be subjected to, I'm putting that in air quotes because it's not.
We're not that bad.
No, because that's it. Because you think
it's a look and feel, Steph.
I thought I was going to be subjected to all this scrutiny, but it wasn't.
Why do I get
like that?
I'm picturing like a dentist chair with the eyes wide open. Like when you say subjected to.
That was entirely what I thought. I thought it was going to be like that, and I thought it was going to be really, really quite painful.
Appreciate your honesty.
But it wasn't even slightly that way. So maybe if more people know what's going to happen, maybe they'll be more likely to be a little bit less afraid of the process, right? So we're going to break this down into the first month, the second month, the third month. So because there are definite phases.
Absolutely.
It's not immediately you sit down, well, this is where you need to be putting your money.
Certainly
it's not like that. So let's start with the first month. Why does getting to know someone's, and this is, if I'm correct, the time where you actually get to know your client.
Yep.
Why is that important?
So if we break it down even further just into what even happens to get to the first meeting. So we will have a fairly brief call with you. So 15 to 30 minutes, we call it a get to know you call. You'll say to us, this is why I've even made this phone call in the first place. This is why I'm thinking about getting financial advice. We'll understand a little bit about your position. We'll tell you a bit about Tribeca, what the process is going to look like, and we'll also disclose our fees. We have a really big thing about honesty and transparency around fees. We want to make sure before you even get to that first meeting, you know what that might look like. So first stage, and then you're absolutely right, it's all about getting to know you. The reason this is so important is that we could be drawn into thinking that any financial strategy is going to work for anybody. So it's either a good strategy or a bad strategy, regardless of who you are. And that's just not the case. So exactly the same financial position could call for a different strategy based off of what your goals are, what's important to you. A really good example of this is super. So we talk about superannuation a lot in Australia. It's really tax effective, can be a great place to put any extra income that you've got. Really, really good way of saving. But for somebody who's perhaps in their 30s, they're looking to buy their first home, tying your money up in super where you can't then access that until much later on in life is probably not going to be the right thing for them. Say you're somebody in your 50s, you're really thinking about retiring in the next 10 or so years, that might be a great strategy. So it's just one example of where this same financial strategy is either appropriate or not appropriate depending on your circumstances. So unless we really understand you and the core of who you are and what's important to you, we can't tailor that strategy for you, and it's just not going to be optimal.
So you're obviously, I think that this is obvious for everyone in this room, but for the audience, you haven't just got something off the shelf, a strategy off the shelf that you're bringing out and you do like 10% of your income here, 10% of your income here, like thank you, off you go.
You are absolutely right.
You're not doing that. You actually need to know the person before you start
100%.
working out what's going on.
Yeah. So our first meeting is all based around that. It's all around getting to know you. You also getting to know Tribeca because you've got to make sure that we're the right people for you. In the same way that every strategy isn't the same, every advisor isn't the same. So that's the core focus of that first meeting.
And the currency being trust.
Absolutely.
Building trust.
Yeah.
And what sort of things are you exploring in the early getting to know you stuff? Like what kind of questions are you asking and what do you want to find out from people?
Yeah. I get really excited about this because, as you can see this. My background's psychology. I love getting to know people, to understand people. And I actually think as an advisor, it's a real privilege that we're able to have these conversations with people. We're talking about things that really, really matter to them. So we're asking questions like, where do you want to be living? What does your life look like in 10 years' time? Who's important to you? So who are the people that you want to be spending time with that we need to potentially plan for? You might have parents that you need to be thinking about, children. We're thinking about any immediate pain points. So there might be something that's stressing you out at the moment. We're asking you to open up and be vulnerable about that. So we're really talking about your hopes and fears for the future. It's big things, and it's as I said, it's a joy and a privilege to be talking about that.
It's also a joy and a privilege to be part of it because it's funny getting those questions. You're like, oh, I haven't thought about this sort of stuff. It's like, what does matter to me? And like these are often actually really nice questions. There's an optimism.
Well, gets you out of the day-to-day. From my point of view, Steph, I often talk, you get your eyes off the chest and you can look forward. There's a bit of blue sky. There's a lot more optimism, and a lot more positivity in it. Not that the day-to-day is negative, but what could be. You're
caught in a grind. That's the problem. It's like you can't actually sort of project forward and be like, oh, well, what could life be like? You're often stuck in like, what groceries do I have to pick up? Or what am I, where do I have to be? What work assignment have I got on the boil? Whereas if you're actually like stop and be like, what matters to me?
Yeah. And
how do I think that I can get there? And suddenly you're sort of like, I found that I was flooded with a bit of like some endorphins. Like I felt happy. It's like, I forgot that this is the stuff that matters to me. And it's sort of like it recalibrated things.
Absolutely. This is why I'm doing it all. This is what matters. And so we have people come to us as individuals. We also have people come to us as couples. It might be that you are having the day-to-day conversations about, who picked this up from the grocery store and whose turn is it to do the dishes. But you're not necessarily sharing your hopes and dreams with each other and making sure that you are aligned and that you then have something that you can really move forward together on. So for couples as well, it might be the first time that you've shared that.
And that is important that you have those conversations. I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about women because I think that this actually is, for a lot of women, a blind spot. And for so many reasons. For me, and I think for other women, like there is a sense of guilt that we're being left behind at times financially. I think that even when you're doing well, I think that that's something I'm imagining that's something that you come across.
Yeah, and I've been there. It's absolutely something. And unfortunately, women have been subject to societal expectations, economic inequalities that lead them to experience a higher level of guilt and anxiety around their finances than men. Even me saying that sentence feels quite heavy. It's a heavy thing. And there's a reason that all of Brené Brown's research on shame and guilt took off. It resonates with people. So it's not exclusive to women. Certainly men feel this too, but there is definitely a trend there. And it shows up in a few different ways. So it could be that they just avoid the topic altogether. This is a little too difficult. I don't want to go there. They have these beliefs that I'm not good about money. I would say that the women that I meet and the women who come to me to talk about their finances are much more capable than they give themselves credit for. Often this really is a limiting belief and there are reasons for it. There's context that's really important here, but generally it's not the case. And what it takes is the opportunity to have support and to reframe that mindset, to know that actually it's valid that you feel that way, but this doesn't need to overwhelm you and stop you moving forward. We also focus at Tribeca a lot on education. So this isn't a case of, clearly we're going to do the heavy lifting for you, but it's not that we're going to just go off and do this thing in the background and you never understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. We want you to feel empowered, and that is through gentle, accessible education that is a continuing process. We work with people over the long term, and it's increasing their awareness, increasing their knowledge so that they can feel empowered.
And to get to that point, you have to have those sort of conversations and get to know people and unblock why they might be feeling a little bit funny about money. So to me, it sounds like the first month is very much a getting to know you exercise and making sure that you're going to give the best advice for that person.
Absolutely. And some of these are quite big things to think about. So we talk about, what does a good life look like for you? It's quite a big question. So we have really practical exercises that we go through that the advisor will guide you through to help you get to that. Again, we've talked about limiting beliefs, we've talked about how you feel about your finances, which is hugely important. Again, we have a practical exercise that we can go through with you to help you with that. So this certainly isn't, and you've experienced it, it's not you being thrown in a room and we just say, oh, hey, tell us all your hopes and dreams and what does your good life look like?
And or not acronyms, not heavy on the investment side, not all's active investing and things like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, and the more serious, like, where's the money going? What are you doing with it? That comes later. But in the initial stages, it was actually just about, because of course you can't provide that information about what you should be doing until you know what I want, where it's going.
Exactly right. And, Rach touched on it as well. We're big on educating our clients because the ultimate goal, them feeling confident in life, and financial confidence is one of them. Key thing is having the courage to take the first step. People who know something called the 4 C's model. So it starts with the courage, then you go through a coping, then there's competence, and there's confidence. And you really can't skip those steps. And that done alone is a lot harder than having someone metaphorically stand beside you, help guide you through that process.
Yeah. And I think you can't sort of work out what you want to do with your money until you work out where you want to go, what
100%.
you want to do. And like for some people, that'll be the first time that they really sort of think about those things, have those conversations.
Think about what's possible.
Yeah.
What's truly possible.
And I think that there's a misconception as well with financial advising, that you go to a financial advisor if you just want to make a lot of money. It's like, I have money and I want more money. That's not it at all. It's so I
couldn't be further from the truth.
But my understanding, I think before I sort of was part of this, is that, you know, rich people go to financial advisors to make themselves more rich, and that's it. There's nothing really past that, which was of no interest to me. But I think, like a lot of people, like, oh no, it's about making sure that your money is working in a way.
And I think, in fairness, Steph, you know, upon reflection, the profession has probably perpetuated that a lot as well. And that's why, humbly at Tribeca, we're so passionate about being really client-centric and helping a client define what their good life looks like. That is a key point of difference. That's why we're passionate.
Definitely. So what kind of challenges, like, you know, whether they're real or if they're in someone's head, that tend to surface at this time in these early conversations?
Yeah. One good example that I can think of, because it comes up a lot, it's not unusual, is if we do have a couple of differences in spending behaviours. So they probably haven't realised why they might be acting in different ways. It can be a real source of frustration. It can be a roadblock to moving forward. I have this at home. So we have a spender and we have a saver. I won't let you guess who's who.
Come on. Yes, game show. Yes, Steph.
I live my life on spreadsheets, so you can
I
guess who it is.
Yeah.
But neither's good nor bad. And actually both of them at the extremes can be unhealthy. And you do tend to see that people maybe don't quite understand the other person, why they're behaving the way that they do. And some of the biggest turning points that we have in those meetings, particularly when we go through something like the financial wellbeing matrix, is one turning to the other and saying, I didn't know you thought that, or I understand much more now why you do those things.
Because it allows the other partner to have the context right.
Yeah.
It's not just the action, it's the context.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And that can be a huge turning point for people. Another thing that we tend to come across a lot, and we've touched on it a little bit already, is just that feeling of being behind. It's really difficult for people to have a yardstick and a benchmark on where they should be. And actually should, I think, is a terrible word here, because as we've mentioned, everything is personal. So where I should be is going to be very different probably from the person that I'm comparing myself to, depending on where it is that we're trying to get to. So I'd say that there are two big things that we come across and that we help people work through in those early meetings.
And in terms of practical stuff, what sort of documents are you going to need to provide? What sort of stuff do you need to get together so you're going to have the information you need to work with someone well?
Great question. So let's just summarise, I guess, where we've got to so far. So we've had that get to know you call. We will then send you a confirmation of our discovery meeting, which is the one that we're talking about now, which is where we start to go through all of this with you. We'll ask you to bring a couple of things to that meeting. So one of them will be your ID, so just some photo ID. The reason for that is that we are very highly regulated in financial services for all the right reasons. So this is to do with our anti-money laundering requirements. So make sure you are who you say you are. It's to protect people from fraud. And then another thing that we will ask you to bring with you probably is a super statement. So most Australians have superannuation. It can form quite an important part of your financial world. So we ask you to bring that with you. It gives us a bit more insight. And the other thing that we do is prior to the meeting, we'll actually send you a fact find to fill out. So a fact find is essentially an online form, and it's asking for basic information about your personal information. So who you are, who your partner is, if that's relevant, date of birth, various bits and pieces. Also some basic information on your finances. So your assets, so maybe your home, if you have one, any investments, cash, things like that, any liabilities, home loan, often a big one, your expenditure and your income. So what we're trying to do there is get some of those hard facts so that we don't have to spend the time getting that from you at the first meeting. We can really maximise the time that we spend with you talking about all the good stuff that we were just speaking about. The form is pretty straightforward. It will guide you through the amount of detail that we need. If there's anything that's missing from that we need afterwards, we can obviously speak to you about it at the first meeting. We can help you to get that. So it's really designed to give you a great structure of what we need from you and an easy way of capturing that.
This was the part I was dreading the most. Admin, not my strong suit. This will be shocking to you. And I thought that this was going to end me. Not that bad.
Okay.
Actually, not that bad.
Good
the
to
thing
hear.
is, the truth is that, these things are not buried as much as you think they are. Like it's bank statements, superannuation. These institutions know that people want to have quick access to this stuff. They make it easy. They make it easy for you. So you don't actually have to dig that far. It was like, I don't know what, it took me maybe an hour and a half, and I've got home loans, superannuation, I've got the whole thing. It was.
Yeah.
It
and you
wasn't that
probably
complicated.
did, Steph, a pretty detailed version of that.
Yeah.
What we find often is clients will maybe spend 20, 25 minutes on that client profile. And we find that once they've made the courage to reach out to it, they've had the courage to reach out to us, and then they do a get to know you phone call, they're therefore inspired to do this other little admin piece to then meet the discovery appointment that they'll have in a week or two's time.
Yeah, just don't let the admin scare you off is my personal advice here. Don't let the admin scare. Even if you're someone who's terrified of admin, it's just not that onerous. The information isn't hidden from you. It's just spending, I don't know, a little bit of time logging into your bank accounts, and then that's it, and then you're done.
And we're still pretty high level at this stage. So we're really asking for what's the number on that statement.
Exactly.
At the point that we need more information, which obviously we do, at some point we're really, Ryan said earlier, looking under the bonnet, we're going to delve deep into your finances. If you've got existing super, you've got other investments, products, when you come to that first meeting, when you agree that you're then happy to go ahead, and we're really going to start looking at that strategy for you, and we're going to come to this in the second month really, we will ask you to sign third-party agreements. So it's just a form that basically says you're very happy for us to go and speak to your providers. So that takes that admin burden away from you completely. We will go to them. We will ask for the information that we need. You don't have to do that. So the information that you're having to provide first up is really high level, gives us a general overview of your situation. Once we get into the detail, we'll do that for you.
Yeah, which is, for someone like me, invaluable.
And we have experts that you'd say sit behind the scenes, Steph, that do us. We're very grateful to work with them.
Absolutely.
They can find the information.
Let's now move to the second month. You've got the high level information. You sort of know what's going on behind the scenes as well in the person, what they want to achieve, maybe where they're having some emotional roadblocks or whatever with their money. What then happens? How do you move from understanding someone to actually building a plan?
Yeah, great question. So this is where all that analysis starts to take place. And Ryan's already mentioned we have some fabulous people that work with us in our team. We have people in client experience who will go out to the providers, get that information. We have a wonderful power planning department who really help us to get into the detail of this. So what we're doing is we're taking everything that we've heard from you, and we're then going off and gathering the data. So we then analyse all of this financial information that we have, but we're doing that now through the lens of your objectives and what you're trying to get to. So that's why that first month was so important, so that we can be looking at this in the right way. We then go and we do things like modelling in the background. So this is not me walking down a catwalk. This is me running all of your numbers through modelling software, basically, to look at what the potential decisions and strategies that we're thinking about for you will mean to your finances in the future. They're great tools. We'll probably talk about it in a little bit more detail, but that's something that we'll go off and do in the background. We have something called a strategy meeting. So we'll have gone away and done some of this initial kind of research, and then there will probably be some things that we want to check with you. So one of those things is commonly your risk profile. Again, we can talk about this in a bit more detail, but risk is a really big one when we're thinking about your financial plan. So we will go through a questionnaire with you, have a conversation, which, if I'm honest, is more important than the questionnaire itself. So working out how you feel about risk and what kind of risk level we should be looking to take. And it might be that in our initial research, we've uncovered some things that we want to discuss with you, maybe in terms of trade-offs. So perhaps you mentioned as an example that ethical investing might be important to you. So we've gone away and done a bit of research in the background, and we've looked at a couple of funds, and perhaps it's slightly more expensive than a few other options. We'll basically come to you and say, these are the things that we're thinking about. We need your input on X, Y, Z to know what's important to you. So that strategy meeting is normally a couple of weeks after the first discovery meeting. So we've gone away, done some work in the background. We'll then have that meeting with you if there's anything we need to fine tune. And then we carry on to actually putting the formal plan together.
When you're getting that plan, right, it's not like the decisions have been made for you and you're locked into anything. That is still at that point a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely right. So to be honest, we don't find that we change much once we've done the plan because of how much time and effort we put into those early stages of getting to know you and doing the research. But 100% it is not locked in at that point. So the way that the stages look, you've got that first month of discovery, you've got then, I would say, the second month of putting the strategy together and then presenting that to you. So one of the key things here is that you get a statement of advice. So it's a document that you get that tells you exactly what we're recommending, why we're recommending it, so how this fits with the things that you want to do, and how much that costs. So it's really transparent on the fees. We have a meeting with you to go through this. You don't just get shoved a document that you have to read and digest yourself. The conversation around this is, if I'm honest, in my opinion, more important than the document itself. So it's, again, that understanding piece. So you should be able to sit at the end of that meeting and feel that we understand your objectives. You can see how we've got to the strategy that we have. You understand why we're recommending those things, and you feel informed enough to be able to say, yep, comfortable with this, off you go. So you're completely right. We put that strategy together, we present it to you, but you're not locked in. You sign at the end of that meeting if you're comfortable with things. And again, things change over time. So this is not a set and forget, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in terms of the ongoing advice relationship. We know that our lives aren't static and that the thing that is right for you now may need tweaking over time. So we can do that moving forward as well.
I love the fact, Rach, that you've mentioned that as well. So nothing over the journey, Steph, is obviously locked in. We know that our clients experience, or people experience, a significant life event maybe once every 36 months. So birth, death, marriage, divorce, or something like that. So the plan starts, but the power of having a trusted advice relationship is when things change, when life changes, the advisor can help change course as well. And we mentioned about working through divorce and inheritance and redundancy and the like as well. So nothing stagnant.
This is also such a technical part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Like, and these are like I would have no clue how to come and run models and work out what, like, it's just stuff that's not really available to the general public. You're doing a tricky job because you're having to manage a personal relationship, but then you also have just some hard maths and some hard technical. How do you manage to keep both of those things afloat?
Yeah, I mean, they're both fundamentally important to what we do. And I think that at Tribeca, you probably hear us talk a lot about the qualitative stuff because it's the things that people don't immediately think about when they think about a financial advisor. And we know the benefit of that and how important it is. So we want to educate people on that. But you are so right that we need to have the technical skill. There's no good coming to us and then just walking away feeling good, feeling nice about things. You want to know that actually it's going to make a difference to your finances. Yeah. It's a little bit of a juggling act, but I think that the quantitative and the technical stuff is the things that actually, whilst clients might not understand all of the detail initially, they do understand that that's the key part of our job. So that's the thing that they really expect of us, and we don't have to explain away as much as the other bits and pieces. And there are things that we have to go through to make sure that we are technically competent. I think this is really important for people if they are looking at getting financial advice, because there are a couple of things that it's good to understand. So we're a highly regulated industry, and we should be. We've talked about the trust that you're placing in a financial advisor. You want to know that somebody is competent, that they're qualified, that they are meeting certain ethical standards, and that's absolutely what we have to do. One of the things that you can do, there are a few things that you should be considering when you're picking an advisor, but the absolute baseline is that they're authorised to give financial advice. You can just literally go online, Google financial advisor register. You pop in the name of the person that you're talking to, and it will show you whether they're signed off to give financial advice. That's such an absolute basic, but I think that it gives people comfort seeing that. There's also more guidance on that website. It's very good in terms of the things to think about when you're looking at an advisor.
And you also, like, it's not just that you're heavily regulated, you also are legally required to act in a client's best interest too.
Yep, absolutely. So this is part of the Corporations Act. I'm not going to quote the exact bit. I'm sure some of our advisors would be able to, but I certainly can't. So it's part of the Corporations Act. We're regulated by ASIC. And it's written in there. It's actually written in our code of ethics as well. It's absolutely fundamental to everything that we do, that we are acting in the client's best interest. What that actually means in practice is that we put the client's needs, their goals, their circumstances ahead of our own and anybody else's, and that we're making sure that any recommendation that we make does genuinely move them forward in terms of their financial well-being.
And you've got all those tools that sort of help make sure that is actually what you're able to do. And you can also help with the modelling, you can help visualise it too, which is useful for some people as well. So it's not just words, you can see on a chart where they are or where they're going to be. And it helps you plot out your future too.
The modelling's fabulous. So one of the key reasons that people do come to us is they might be trying to make a decision, or decisions come up in time. You know, as Ryan mentioned, we have life changes. There can be opportunities that present themselves that are really positive things. There could be, you know, some harder things that we have to deal with. And what we often find is that people think, I would love to do X, Y, Z, or I think I want to do this, but I don't know what it looks like. And then we reach decision paralysis and we do nothing, because it's hard. It's really hard to move forward when you don't feel like you've got the information that you need to make an informed decision. So the modelling's fabulous. There's a couple of different ways that it works. It can show us how the decisions and the changes that we make will impact asset values over time. It can also show us what your cash flow looks like year to year. So one that I found coming up a lot recently, we're having a lot of clients come to us who are maybe thinking about starting a family. I had some recently, so they were thinking about starting a family in a couple of years, and they ideally wanted to have 2 children, and they just weren't certain how the reduced income for one of them was going to impact them, whether they would actually be able to meet their financial obligations, whether this was going to put stress on them that actually they couldn't quite cope with. So what we did was we ran the numbers, and it actually showed them that they were absolutely able to cope through those years of reduced income. But what they did need to do was make sure that in the next couple of years, they captured their surplus income. And they knew exactly what they needed to do, and this could deliver the thing that was hugely important to them. You know,
it's huge. It's family.
It's family.
It's enormous. Yeah,
it's your why, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, you know, modelling sounds very numbersy, but actually, you're right. You get these visuals, and you can then use that to make informed decisions.
Yeah, that will actually materially change your life forever in very, very big ways.
Well, I know we've discussed it on our podcast multiple times before, Steph, but things that are important to people, family, friends, holidays, hobbies, and experiences, people go to an advisor because that's what I want. How can you financially show me that I can live that life? That's the thing.
And what are the reactions that you get from clients when you show them the plan?
Honestly, it's often a mix of relief and excitement,
which is nice.
Fabulous, right? We're really lucky to be able to see this with people. So relief, I think, because they've done something about this and they can see a way forward. Another client that I really had this with, and it had a huge impact for her, was a lady who, she was in her mid-40s. She'd recently been divorced. When we first met, she was actually still very much going through the emotional side of that, and she was hugely overwhelmed in terms of her finances. It was not an uncommon circumstance where her husband had looked after the money in the time that they'd been together. She said when she saw the plan that she hadn't been able to imagine a time where she would feel empowered and confident about her financial situation moving forward, and this had enabled her to do so. It gave her a path and a roadmap to move forward, and she felt she got the support to get there. And I just think...
You must have loved that.
Honestly...
What a day at the office that is.
Yeah.
It's like, how lovely.
It's really special what we're able to do, because you can really make a difference.
What a job where actually someone will say that to you. Like, you don't get that in a lot of jobs, do you?
And without it sounding like, or without it being a cliche, Steph, it's why we do what we do. We're in the people business.
Yeah.
We help people.
Yeah, it looks like numbers on the outside, but it is actually the gooey core of it is actually
the gooey
people.
core.
The gooey core of financial advising. You can keep that. You can make that.
Can I?
Yeah, Tribeca, the gooey core of financial.
We'll have to speak to our marketing. We'll have to speak with Lise from our marketing.
I think that's good. I think I've approved that.
Okay.
So now the financial plan is in place. It's the 3rd month. Yeah. You are now not walking out the door and never to be seen again. There is a relationship that is in place, but it evolves, doesn't it?
It definitely does, which is really built upon the foundation that we've made in the first couple of months. So building that trust, understanding you, and then we move into what we call an ongoing advisor relationship. So it's really a partnership between us and the client, where we are there as their trusted advisor moving forward. So I think that sometimes we can think that financial plans are a bit of a set and forget. And I think it's because it's easier for us to understand what we're doing in those early stages. It feels quite tangible in terms of we talk to you, we look at your finances, we make some changes. And for people, it's a bit harder for them to understand what it might look like moving forward. But we've talked already about coaches. And, a lot of plans need some kind of behavioural change. And even when we know the right thing to do, we have habits, we have biases and things that maybe stop us doing that. And there are some really key ones that we see a lot. So it might be sticking to weekly transfers that we've agreed for your fund spending. It could be completely the opposite. It could be that we've talked to you, you're in retirement, and we've talked to you about what's important and meaningful to you. And actually, you need to spend a bit more money to do that. And you're able to do it. We've given you the confidence that you can do it. But you've been very careful with your money all of your life. And it's hard for you to do that. So there's behavioural change that people need to go through, and we're there to coach them through that. Ryan talked as well about, and it's hugely relevant, and that statistic I think is incredible in terms of how often we face a big life change. I think we really underestimate that. There are decisions and situations that are going to come up that mean that we need to either make adjustments or we need to go through that process again of reviewing, giving you confidence, showing you what things could look like.
And just to expand upon that, Rach, those life, I've touched on the past around inheritance and redundancy and the like, but if I'm thinking practically, it's private versus public school. It's kids finishing at private school. It's upsize or downsize a house. Is it an investment property? Is it potentially a holiday? Is it a significant overseas holiday at Christmas? There are just so many things and so many options where people shouldn't feel overwhelmed. It's a great opportunity, just building your way or working your way through that.
So in a practical sense, how often do you meet up with your clients? Is it as something comes up for them, or you have a phone call and stay on track? Like, how often are you sort of talking to people after the initial setup has been done?
Fabulous question. So obviously every advice firm is going to do it differently. So I'll just speak for Tribeca and what we do. So we will meet with you at least once a year. So that's our minimum. And that would be to go through everything in detail. So that's a full review. But I actually think that the key is all of the little touch points in between. So we are absolutely there as your advisor, the person that you can call when you need to, and you just pick up the phone to us, send us an email, ask for a meeting, whatever it is that you need, we're there to do that. Even if it's just a quick call in terms of, I am thinking about this holiday in a few months, or this thing has come up in my child, what do I do here? It might be that we can just answer that on a phone call. It's something quite straightforward. It might be that we rerun some modelling for you and bring you in to look at that. So the frequency of how often we speak is really driven by you, but we're going to make sure that we're maintaining that, at least a couple of times a year at a minimum. We are guided by the clients because some people come to us because they really want to be quite hands-off. We still want them to understand what's happening. But, for them, the benefit is not in really frequent contact, but it's knowing that we're there when we need them. And we're going to make sure that we are checking in a couple of times a year. For others, they need a little bit more. And again, they might still be in that feeling of, I feel much better about things than I did, but I still need more guidance. And sometimes this changes over time as well. So for some clients, we, in the first couple of years, might meet 2 or 3 times a year. And then that drops off as they get a bit more comfortable. So it just depends.
What happens if someone is actually really struggling with the behavioural changes that you need to do? How can you come in? Do you give more advice? What's your strategy?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that we're non-judgmental about it. So we're here to be your support, and we're absolutely in your corner. We want you to succeed. And we don't want people to feel judged or afraid of talking to us about the things that we're struggling with. And we also really understand that behavioural change is a process. It takes time. If it wasn't, I would be incredibly fit and healthy, and we would all be our absolute best selves.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that behavioural change takes time. So what we do find is that people who have a coach, a support, who have accountability, they have regular check-ins, make more consistent progress than people who are just left to do something on their own. So it's that knowledge that actually somebody is tracking your progress, tracking your behaviours, they're checking in on you. We're just better when we're held, to be accountable for things.
Fair to say as well, Rach, if people are struggling with potentially some financial behavioural change, we would anchor back to what their goals are. And that's why it's really important their goals are in their words, both short, medium and long term.
Absolutely. And I think that we're really lucky at Tribeca that we have advisors who really do understand and care about people. And we put a lot of time into doing research on things like the psychology behind money and how we think about things and our behaviours, so that we can try and help, because we know and we've seen, and I think that it's been a thing of the advice industry in the past, that people can just be given a plan and off you go. And actually, if that doesn't deliver any change, you haven't really helped anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I love a stat, Steph, so I'll bring one out. But I think there's about 1 in 20 Australians that currently receive financial advice, but there's a lot more that need it. We're trying to close that gap.
Yeah. I mean, and it's important, like now more than ever. It's so hard. There's so much conflicting information. And you do have to be careful where you get your advice, right? Like some people are just going to Instagram and listening to reels and thinking that something's a sure
We get
thing.
that feedback a little bit.
Yeah. I've got a mate who...
You've always got a mate.
I've always got a mate.
You've always got a mate.
I've got a lot of stories.
Speaking for a friend.
I'm not going to name names, but I have a friend who took financial advice from someone at their gym.
Okay.
And like this is jiu-jitsu. We're not talking about intellectual giants here.
You really don't want to get it wrong there either, do you?
No, you don't. And so someone was like, he had a sure thing, and it was on cryptocurrency.
Okay.
It's like, you got to buy. It's about, yeah, I know your face.
Sorry.
Actual look of distress. Very funny. Guy, I heard this as well. He's like, yeah. He told me it was a sure thing. It's like, I bought in at the peak and then it ditched. It's like, well, so, you know.
What do you, in jiu-jitsu, what do you call it when, like, you have a, you know, you're training together, spar? Or what do you call it?
Yeah.
I'd love to see those two roll after
that
financial. How would that go?
Yeah, not too well. But like, you know, he was pretty like, you know, oh, well, you know, it comes and goes. But like, incredible. Very different to me. But it's funny where people will take financial advice from literally anyone but an expert.
Well, we you know, there is something around financial advice, but it's the barbecue conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
Even FAAA or FPA, who's our professional association, maybe 10 years ago talks about there was a campaign that ran around.
Yeah.
Everyone's an expert.
Yeah.
But to your point, Steph, absolutely, and to Rachel's earlier, just be really sure in terms of who you're getting advice. And if they're not qualified, the advice is not qualified.
We're getting it with ChatGPT a lot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it,
I don't want
right?
to talk about it, but I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous. You know, it is great at certain things, but everything that we've talked about up until now in terms of there is not just a purely good or bad strategy, and everything is related to you and your personal circumstances. It doesn't do that. So, you know, you can ask it a base technical question and it can summarise that for you. It's great.
Yeah.
I actually had an argument with it yesterday on something to do with the UK finances, but that's okay.
Who won the argument?
Well, it told me that I was right to push back, so I was very grateful. But no, it can do some base level things for you, and the information that's available, we encourage people to go and seek information. That's great. But when we come to actually thinking about your finances, where you're trying to get to, your detailed plan, it just isn't capable of doing that.
I so agree.
Some early education, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not full advice and not to move forward on your personal financial strategy.
Yeah, exactly that.
No, you absolutely, like, it is just so dangerous, I think, because it is confidently wrong. That's my problem with it. It will look you in the eyes and lie to you. And then
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's like it's so confidently wrong and objectively wrong at times. And I think that is a real danger.
It's a risk, yeah.
It's
a risk.
And it's yet another source of misinformation in an area, people's money, that is so riddled with misinformation already.
Well, and to your earlier point, Steph, around we're seeing new clients who come in who are sourcing information from Instagram and the like, but it's because they couldn't find a trusted advice relationship or they didn't know where to go. That was what they did. But then once, you know, they teamed up with someone that they trusted, okay, this is what holistic financial advice looks, people first financial advice looks like.
Yeah, that's actually also based on your money and also the country we live in. That's the other danger of when you're looking at Instagram reels or you're going to large language models like ChatGPT, which is trained on a database set that is not an Australian database set.
Yeah, a Kiwi super saver is not a lot of benefit to us, you know.
That's it. So you've got to actually, you've got to go with the people who understand the circumstances and the circumstances that you are endemic to, which is very difficult. So what is something, Rachel, that you would like people to know about financial advice, or if you could change someone's opinion, or if you could impart a lesson, what would you like that to be?
Oh, there are a few. But
okay, I'm sure there are a few.
I honestly think that the key thing, and this is central to a lot of it, is that thinking that a financial plan is a set and forget. Mm-hmm. And this is for people who've obviously got to that point. There's a lot that we've talked about in terms of getting financial advice in the first place. But I still think that there's this misconception that even if you've got to the point where you realise that it's worth speaking to an advisor, you can think that that initial review is enough to get you to where you want to be. And there's this feeling, I think, and I think we're guilty of this as an industry. This has been partly our fault in the past, of making people think that financial advice is really just about picking investments and setting up products. And we're so clever, we know all the technical stuff in that area, and actually that is the core of our value. And it's not the case. So the real value comes over time. We've talked about that continuing partnership and moving forward. And that's where you see the huge benefit. So yes, the stuff that we do in the early stages, it sets you up well. It absolutely does. But the real value and the real benefit comes over time. So it's that importance of the continued informed decision making. It's making adjustments when we have things like the life changes. We're guilty of this even as advisors. There's research that shows that advisors think that the key benefit to clients of having financial advice is avoiding costly errors. It's not. What clients report the key value of advice is that feeling of being in control. I think that's hugely, hugely important for us to explain to people, and for us to continue to build those relationships with people moving forward. And whether it's just them or it's their children. We talked about succession planning, intergenerational planning. Our plans are not just for them, they're for their children moving forward. This is absolutely a partnership, and I think that investing in that relationship with your advisor and building that trust and seeing that through moving forward is huge. The number of clients who have come to me and have said, I really didn't think that I needed this ongoing relationship. If I'm honest, I didn't fully understand it to start with, and now I just can't imagine being without it. I think that if I could deliver that message to more people and help them to come on that journey, that would be my key thing.
Rach, thank you so much. I feel like if anyone's listening to this, if they had any questions about what the first few months of financial advice would be, I think you covered it beautifully, as usual. And if you found this helpful, do make sure that you follow Money and a Good Life wherever you're listening to this podcast now, so you do never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Advice given in this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to influence decisions about investing or financial products. Our listeners should always seek their own professional advice that considers their own personal circumstances before making any financial decisions.